Difference of 2 seconds, the game clock and the shot clock.
Worst case scenario, we're going to overtime.
Jokic a screen, Murray to try to break the tie.
No timeout by the Lakers, I gotta go.
James, a bump, a feed, a punch shot, no! Zeros on the clock, the Nuggets advance! They have won!
How about if I start today with an unbelievable statistic?
Kevin Harlan, TNT.
Evan Giddings, in for Darryl the Guru Johnson. Guru's got some family stuff to take care of. How about this stat to start the show? This is the first time since 2005 that neither Steph Curry, LeBron James, or Kevin Durant did not make the second round of the playoffs. It's pretty unbelievable. I mean, I'm not breaking any news here by suggesting that there's a changing of the guard occurring in front of our eyes in the NBA right now. And the question of today is, what does it mean for the Golden State Warriors, who won 4 titles over the span of a decade, but finds himself in a little bit of no man's land right now? Evan, good morning, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Love out to Go and his family. Hope he's doing well. Looking forward to seeing him tomorrow. But we are looking at, and we've talked about the transition that the Warriors ideally are going through, not just this season, this summer, in the near future. The whole league is going through a transition. And I think that's what we saw in the first round, because the league now more than ever is about young, up-and-coming, rising, established stars. The fading stars, LeBron, Durant, Curry, we'll see what happens with the Clippers. Their time is no longer. Steiny, the era of the big three is dead. It's over. It's about the Doncic's, the Tatums, the Jokic's, the SGA's, the Anthony Edwards. It's not about the players in their mid to late 30s anymore. And that's the reality that I think a lot of people have been hit with by watching this first-round series. And I'm sure the reality that the Golden State Warriors are trying to wrestle with as they figure out how they want to embark upon this summer.
Yeah, and that's the question of today. Well, there's not one. And one of the things I'm hoping for today is we just talk about all these aspects of where the Golden State Warriors are right now. And, you know, we talked about this team for 6 months, and some thought they were better than they ended up. Some didn't think they were as good as they ended up. But where they go for now, or from here, I should say, is just, it's going to be fascinating. And, you know, I'm just going to be throwing out some questions for Warrior fans and just want to get into a discussion on where they are, where they want to go, how far they could go in an offseason, and whether it's reasonable or feasible to get back into the top tier of the NBA. And I want to know, Warrior fans, if you've been watching the playoffs, if you can remember how you felt when the Warriors got beat against Sacramento and everything you heard from the team, and the idea that maybe if you would have won a game or two, you could have played Minnesota or gotten a shot at Denver or maybe even played the Oklahoma City Thunder. For all the people out there that thought the Warriors, if they got into that spot, could have done damage, I'm wondering if after you've watched most of the first round play out, if you still believe that the Warriors would have given any of the top 3 teams a series, whether it's Denver, whether it's Minnesota, or whether it's Oklahoma City. Because that, to me, is a starting point. Because if we're still in the mindset that we could have been in these playoffs and competed, to me, it suggests you go down one avenue. But if you're looking at these playoffs saying, my goodness, these teams are young, they're long, they're athletic, we're more than a step or two away from getting back there, then maybe you go down another avenue. But where are the Warriors right now, and what do you do? 888-957-9570. What's hit you the most, let's say, in the last 2 weeks since the Warriors were beaten by the Kings and watched the playoffs so far?
Well, watching the first round, I never felt like the Warriors would beat any of the top 3 seeds. So that's OKC, Minnesota, Denver. I personally just didn't think that they'd beat them 4 out of 7 in the first round. But what was disappointing to me about them not making the playoffs is to get a literal gauge of how far you are away.
Right.
Because we still don't technically know that. I know you can make the comparison of, well, the Warriors lost to the Kings lost to the Pelicans just got swept by the Thunder. That to me is a little unfair. I can't make that sort of leap. But it does mean that you're in a tougher spot in regards to gauging how far you feel like you are from whether it's contention or I think, honestly, Steiny, just the playoffs. I mean, we're going to hear some sound from Curry in just a moment about what he thinks that this team can do this summer or what they need in order to get into the postseason. But to me, Steiny, it's really the Warriors moving forward. It's about trying to remain relevant and competitive. And what we're finding out from the Western Conference, the East is in a completely different situation. But in the Western Conference is, if you're going to make a drastic move, and there's a couple players whose names have been floated due to their first-round flameouts, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Paul George perhaps. There's some trade candidates on the market that are viable. Do the Warriors go out and make a drastic move to try and improve themselves, or do they make a drastic move to tear this thing down slowly? Or do they just remain in the same position they were, and they'll try and figure out and hope that they're 3 wins away from being a 6 seed next season? I mean, I do think there are so many avenues for this team to move down. In a way, they have the freedom to do whatever they choose. But the issue is that I don't think whatever they do this summer is going to make up the kind of ground that we just saw the Denver Nuggets establish against the Lakers, the Thunder establish against the Pelicans, and then the Timberwolves establish against the Phoenix Suns. I'm not sure how many teams are getting worse in the Western Conference. And the Warriors right now are kind of in limbo.
Yeah, and the place I think we got to start, and stop rolling your eyes if you think you know where I'm going, but the reality of the situation is that Golden State Warriors owner Joe Lacob made a phone call to the Los Angeles Lakers at the trade deadline, asking about LeBron James and if he were available, according to reports. Lakers said he's not. But that was in the middle of the season, and the Lakers have just been eliminated. So where I want to start is, what's up with LeBron James, who's got an opt-out in his contract?
Was there any thought at all that this could have been your last game with the Lakers?
I'm not going to answer that. Appreciate it.
There it is. So maybe LeBron has played his last game with the Lakers. Is he on the table for the Golden State Warriors? And even if he's on the table, what are the avenues to get him? Boy, are they going to be complicated. They're going to be constraining financially, and they're probably going to take a pound of flesh out of you if you're the Golden State Warriors. The Phoenix Suns have been eliminated. Kevin Durant is not going to the second round. So what do you do if you're the Golden State Warriors? And a lot of this too, we can just talk hoops. I mean, when you watch Minnesota and Denver, what's the biggest need for the Warriors? I mean, what is it? Is it simply to get younger? Is it to get more athletic? Is it to switch up the personnel so the pieces fit a little better? A lot of questions. And then lastly, and I threw this at you before the show, because this is just how we're starting it by kind of spitballing a little bit. What's the biggest priority for the Warriors this offseason? Just their biggest priority, their biggest decision. What do they got to do?
In terms of a player, a theme?
Yeah, a move. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think that's also reflective of the position they're in. It's yeah. I mean, everything is
right.
Sure. I don't know. But I think the biggest thing for me, and I guess I'll, in the words of Curry, tweak my answer from a couple weeks ago.
All right.
I thought it was to get younger, and I still do think that's a priority. I mean, the average age of the roster needs to come down. You got to find more players that are in their 20s, that are in their 30s, that are going to be difference makers in this team. But it's not just getting youth or getting younger. It's getting more mature and not experienced. I'm not talking about bringing a grown-up in the room like they did last summer with Chris Paul. There's a lot of immaturity on this roster from both young and old players. I don't think Draymond Green is an extremely mature individual. You can make a case for the first couple months of this season, Klay Thompson was not mature about how his basketball mortality was looking. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga has been mature enough to help the Warriors. He looks like he's beginning to turn a corner, but he's not there yet. There's a lot of immaturity on this team. Podziemski at times this year, as a rookie, understandably so, has made immature choices on the court. I don't know if there's enough maturity on this roster, Steiny, for me to feel comfortable with them all of a sudden going in a different direction from this season. Andrew Wiggins has played or looked at times immature. And what do I see on Oklahoma City? I see young players. I see mature players. Minnesota, some younger players. Anthony Edwards looks mature. Jaden McDaniels looks mature. All these players are 25 and younger. Tatum in Boston, mature. So it's not just about the average age, and it's not just about the youth. It's about making sure the Warriors can become a more mature team than they have been the last 2 seasons.
This from the Xfinity Mobile text line. You trade the farm to get a younger superstar, not LeBron. LeBron talks like he has nothing more to prove. The "it's just basketball" comment rubbed me the wrong way. Okay, so you're not into LeBron James. I get that. Last week, Steph Curry won the NBA's Clutch Player Award, and he went on with TNT, Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaq, Ernie Johnson, and they asked him about the Golden State Warriors and their season and how close or far they are from getting back into contention. I want you to take a listen to Steph Curry's answer.
I mean, the sad part was just missing 3 wins to, get out of the play-in and have yourself in a playoff series where, even like a game like Sacramento in the play-in tournament we had, you're looking at, okay, we're down 1 and can find a way to game plan to try to get back in the series. Obviously, early in the year, we had a lot of missteps and some absences, but you do realize we're not that far off, even, having tried to stay at this level, at this peak for so long. There's going to be some tweaks. We know, when you lose, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, what can we do to get better? What holes can we fill? And thankfully, we have some time to figure that out. So, a lot of conversations with upstairs with Coach Kerr to try to figure out how to get back to the level that we expect. I didn't answer anything specifically about what we need, but we're going to figure that out over this summer.
All right, so a couple things there. And listen, Steph is a great spokesman, and he knows how to talk on national TV, and he knows what not to say that could get him not into trouble, but be a little bit controversial. But the reality of the situation is, he harped on a few things, and one is that they were 3 wins away from being a 6 seed, okay? He said, we're not that far off. And he also said, we know that a couple tweaks are coming. All those 3 things suggest that the Warriors won't make, let's just say, dramatic changes. But here's the biggest problem I have with what Steph said. And again, he's trying to speak positively and in the right way. So he might not be telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. All right, he's got to be a diplomat here. There's no doubt about it. By the same token, Warrior fans and Curry and Kerr continue to harp on, with a few more wins, we would have been a 6 seed. Okay, 3 more wins gets you a 6 seed. But don't we now know you were going nowhere against Denver, Minnesota, or Oklahoma City? I mean, you were not going to beat those teams. So, I don't know, I have a million thoughts going through my head. One is, if we're talking about a few tweaks to get back up to 6, well, then let's acknowledge the idea of another title is over. The next step next year would be to get into the playoffs without the play-in game, see where we're at that point, and reassess. But, I don't know, the idea that 3 more wins would have made a dramatic difference. Would it have been different? Let's say, theoretically, was there a difference between losing to the Sacramento Kings in the play-in and let's just say getting beat by the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games?
No, but how many people are still thinking about the Warriors as a championship team?
I think there are still a large percentage.
I think there's a lot of people that want them to compete for a title, but I think our fan base is pretty educated, is pretty smart. They're intelligent. They're not looking at this team like they're just going to flip the script and run the table next year. And I don't think they thought that was going to happen this season.
Why? I don't know about that.
Like they thought that they were going to be a finals appearing team coming off a second-round flameout last year?
Well, I mean, I would just tell you what Guru was pounding into my head for 6 months, that when Joe Lacob came into this studio before the season, love the team, we can make a run, we have the pieces, this, that, and the other thing. I would assume he was talking about a championship. But, listen, I'm with you. I think I don't know what the percentages are of where the fan base is in terms of the realisticness, if that's a word, of winning another title. But there still does seem to be, Evan, out there, a lot of everything for Steph or and I don't want to make this about whether it should all be for Steph or not, but it's about, to me, as an organization, you've got to acknowledge that you're further away from a title than maybe you thought, or you're further away than is realistic to make up in 1 year. I guess what I'm saying is, if we stop talking about title or bust, it makes the future look like it could be way more positive than if those are the limitations you're putting on this team.